What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Big Six Podcast, CBS Sports Daily NFL Podcast. I'm Will Brinson. I'm your host. It is Friday, September 2nd. If you are listening to the podcast in audio form, if you're watching on YouTube, it is Thursday, September 1st. Either way, we are basically a week from NFL football being here. College football kicked off in its full week one fashion on Thursday night, and the NFL is here. We're going to do some over-unders on the NFC side of things, I believe. Sure, sounds good. It says football season's almost here. There's no better way to celebrate it than by firing up your CBS Sports Football Pick'em League. CBS Sports Football Pick'em is the best way to step up the competition and fun. Run a custom picks or survivor pool with friends and enter our CBS Sports Challenge for the chance to win guaranteed weekly and season-long prizes, plus the $100,000 jackpot. Get started now at cbssports.com/play or from the More menu on the CBS Sports app. Once again, that's cbssports.com/play or the CBS Sports app. No purchase necessary. See rules for detail. Joining me to talk football, the one, the only, Jimmy Breech. What's up, John?
Brinson, we're less than 1 week away from real football. We just spent God knows how many weeks talking about not real football, and now we're going to be talking about real football.
I'm pretty excited about it.
I love real football. I love Yoo-Hoo chocolate drinks, and I love real football. Shout out.
I think this is what happens to me. I don't know if it's like I get older or whatever thing, but I feel like the longer we're in this, the more willing I am to wait until closer to the start of football season to get excited. Is that a thing with you too, or is that just maybe I'm just I don't know if that's like a thing that y'all deal with, like you deal with and Wilson deals with too, but it's like, it used to be like, oh, we're a month out from football, yes, and now I'm like I ain't getting excited until we get to the week before. And now I'm like, all right, let's go.
I'm even Steven. I'm steady Eddie. It has been Labor Day has been my excitement day for probably the past 10 years, where it hits me. NFL season is here this week. It is going to kick off. So I'm still in off-season mode for 2 more days. Okay. The weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing too is when I sit down with a couple buddies to watch this NC State ECU game on Saturday, which is kind of a petrifying game, but whatever. I think it'll sort of settle in then too, because it's Labor Day weekend. You're like, oh my god, the NFL season is kicking off quite soon. I also think that now more than I used to be when I was younger, like when we were younger, I sort of have formulated. Like I feel like I've kind of formulate my opinions on what I think most teams are going to be earlier in the offseason. And I tend to stray from that formulation a little bit less. I don't know. I don't know why I'm being esoteric about.
I mean, Brinson, the classic Brinson move was just to totally wing your picks and take Cardinals Chargers every year in the Super Bowl. And now this year that pick might actually make sense. Who knows what you're going to do? But Cardinals, the thing is, I think you picked that like in 2013 or 2014. It was one of your craziest picks ever.
I did have Cardinals Chargers at one point. I think I had Chargers Cowboys the first year I did this.
And you rode the Chargers bandwagon for so well. You rode it for so long, you can't jump off now when they actually have a chance. But I think
I'm off the Chargers.
It's funny to hear Brinson say he's basically fully prepped and he knows who he likes, and those are the teams he's going to ride. Brinson never says that. He goes with the hot hand. No, this is a new Brinson.
Maybe that's what it is. Who's to say? Are you going to? We were talking about this with Wilson. Who is the team that there's a team that you're trying to jump on? And by the way, show a little respect. We went on time today for some ungodly reason. There's a team that we think you're trying to get all over for a Super Bowl pick.
Me?
We can't decide if you're going to commit or not.
Oh my God, this is hilarious that you asked that, because no more than 3 minutes before this podcast start, Jordan Dejani, who is handling our Super Bowl picks, and we'll be publishing that on Friday. So when you listen to this podcast, that story should be out. If you're watching on YouTube on Thursday, it is not out yet. Literally chatted me and said, "Hey, Breech, can I have your Super Bowl picks already?" And so I literally spent this whole week doing my final record so we could do these over-under shows. I have my playoff teams picked, but I can't decide on a Super Bowl. Back in July, I told myself, I think I'm going to pick the Colts to go to the Super Bowl. But then after going through all these,
the Colts was a team. Yes.
But after going through everything and looking at where they're going to end up and looking at the playoff field, I have talked myself out of it. So I got to talk myself into someone else. It's not going to be the Colts, and it's not going to be the Bengals. And it's not because, well, one, I don't want to jinx the Bengals, but also I just don't think an AFC team is going back-to-back with this loaded conference.
Yeah. I know my AFC team. I'm waffling between two NFC teams.
Ooh, yeah. We're talking about NFC teams. Which two? You don't have to tell me. I'll give you which three I'm waffling.
Okay. All right. Give me your list. Give me your finalist list for NFC teams. And look, it should be noted that the reason I want this information is because last year I was going to go all in on the Rams, and Breech was like, I'm going to pick the Rams and the Chargers and all the Super Bowl. I was like, that's what I was going to do. And so I went to the 49ers. Breech then bailed on the Rams, and neither of us had the Rams, and the Rams won it all.
And since I do like a playoff pick thing, so you can see who I had in each round in my preseason picks, and I had the Rams against the Packers, an NFC title game that obviously wasn't.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Just tell me who your three teams are.
Well, it's the Rams.
Okay.
But I can't see.
Is it the Rams, Packers, and Bucks? Is that what the three teams are?
It is the Rams, the Packers. Nope, not the Bucks. I'm not picking the Bucks.
Rams, the Packers, and let me guess the other one.
I have two wild cards that I don't like.
East or West?
I'm just no hints.
49ers and Eagles.
Well, it's close. 49ers and Cowboys.
Ooh, okay. So I'm between the 49ers and the Eagles, and I know my AFC team.
Ooh, you're gonna pick the Eagles. The Eagles aren't going to the Super Bowl. I can't.
I don't feel. I think they're pretty loaded, and
the roster's loaded. We're going to talk these over-unders in a second, but we're kind of on the same wavelength. And do you want to give us your AFC team? Or you want to? By the time this podcast comes out,
my AFC team.
The audio version comes out. The story's going to be out. We're going to know your Super Bowl teams.
That's good to know that I need to reply to Jordan with my Super Bowl pick. What are we supposed to?
You have until the end of the day, and then these
two Super Bowl teams.
The story's publishing tomorrow morning, man. It's going to be the newsletter too.
Was that our Super Bowl picks or our Super Bowl bets?
No, your Super Bowl picks. What two teams? Oh, I don't remember.
Pick two over unders, win totals,
I don't
and two Super Bowl team bets along with an explanation for each. So I think it's saying it's not like I'll pick the.
I could pick two AFC teams here if I like that. Like these. Yeah.
So is somebody going to send out I guess that'll be next week when they'll ask for our picks, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, by the way, I don't know. Are you a Steely Dan fan?
What?
Do you like Steely Dan, the band?
I'm indifferent.
Okay. Well, I've got a Steely Dan hat on, courtesy of Double Wonderful on Instagram. I bought it from them, but it's a gaucho hat. I got a bunch of Steely Dan gear. Which tells you I've really hit a midlife crisis point when I'm wearing a bunch of Steely Dan gear. Anyway, no, my AFC team is the Ravens.
Really?
Yeah. It's either Ravens, Eagles, or Ravens 49ers. You can't judge. I know
the Ravens are going to go from never having made it to an AFC title game with Lamar Jackson to just making it to the Super Bowl.
Lots of people have done that.
I guess.
What? Tons of people have done that.
Well, I'm just saying they just don't have a great recent playoff history. But I'm not here to talk you out of your pick.
I can't be talked out of my pick.
You're here
to talk to me about NFC win totals. So we're going to start
in
NFC East.
Even though they're averaging 15 points per game in playoff games with Lamar.
Okay.
Just go.
I don't care.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do the openers.
All right, so we're starting the NFC East, and we're each going to make. All right, we've talked about this ahead of time, but we'll make a pick for each one. How many best bets do you want to come out of here with?
Win totals. There's 16 teams, maybe 5, 3, 4, or 5.
I was thinking it's somewhere between 3 and 5.
Okay, I'm not going to. I
don't think you need to force 5, but if you're sort of scribble down your finalists, and we can give out our best bets at the end. Unless there's a best bet while we're going.
Okay.
I'm going to do the same as soon as I can find a pen, which one would think that a grown adult would keep at his desk, but I'm barely a grown adult. So there you go. I guess I can write them down on this computer thing in front of me. So the Dallas Cowboys, we'll start there. Big D, the favorite to win the NFC East, although erroneously the favorite in my opinion, and I wouldn't be shocked given that Tyron Smith is going to be out until, I believe it. They said December now, right? Tyron Smith out through November, basically, is the expectation. Cowboys win.
Jason Peters.
What's that?
They might send Jason Peters.
Sure, that's fine. I mean, Tyron Smith is a anyway. Point being is that the Cowboys are the favorite. I think the Eagles should be the favorite. Maybe they close as the favorite. We'll see. The Cowboys over under is 10.5. The over is plus 130 at Caesars. The under minus 155. John Breech, your thoughts on this total?
The Cowboys.
It's fairly obvious, by the way, which way Vegas thinks this will go.
Right. And, one obvious problem with the Cowboys is their offensive line, which is a huge problem you don't want to have this close to the start of the season. It's not even just the Tyron Smith stuff. They're replacing Lael Collins. They're replacing Connor Williams. So now you're looking at 3 new offensive linemen minimum, and they just don't have a lot of depth, and that scares me. That scares me, Brinson. I don't love picking a team where a quarterback is going to get slaughtered all season. And yes, we saw it with Joe Burrow, but you know what Joe Burrow had? He had Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. So he had one of the best receiving trios. Well, the Cowboys just got rid of Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup's not going to be on the field in week 1, according to Jerry Jones. So it's literally going to be Dak Prescott either handing the ball off to Zeke Elliott, who might not be the best running back on the team, or throwing it to CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz. So it just seems like until they get this offensive line situation figured out, that there could be some struggles here. So again, I do my record picks in July, and then I do them a week before the season just to see how my mentality changes. And I initially had the Cowboys hitting the over, but now I officially have them going under. I think they're going to go 10-7. So I don't love it because, again, I think they could win 11 games, but just with all the offensive line issues, I like the under here.
Yeah, I mean, the juice here is not – I mean, you don't want to lay minus 155 on the under just because – I mean, like that's just a lot of juice for an under. But if you look at just sort of the direction the Cowboys have gone this offseason, it's kind of hard to get enthused about taking the over. They open up against Tampa, who's got offensive line issues of their own, but has, I think, a major advantage in terms of overcoming issues because of Tom Brady. No offense to Dak Prescott. I mean, Tom Brady's the GOAT.
Then also, Brady has actual receivers to throw to.
That too. Well, I mean, look, Jalen Tolbert, Dalton Schultz, and CeeDee Lamb is not that bad.
I like Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Russell Gage,
Cameron Brady. Yeah, I'm just saying. I mean, the Cowboys have enough talent at receiver where they'll be okay. But Bucks, Bengals at home, at Giants, Washington at home, and then it's like at Rams, at Eagles, Lions, Bears at home. So I'm thinking they split with the Bucks and Cincy. I guess I'll give them a win in New York. I mean, God, they could easily be 3-1 heading, and then let's say 3-3, 5-3. They're bye, then they're at Green Bay, at Minnesota. That feels like 2 L's, but I mean, they could split. Giants, Colts, Texans at home in a row. One of those, the Giants is on Thanksgiving. So I think I've got them at 3-5. I'm going to give them all 3. I'll say 2-1. So I'm going to say 6-5. And then at Jacksonville, Philly at home, at Tennessee, at Washington to close out. Maybe I've done the math wrong here. I think I would take the under, but I don't think I would make it a best bet because that's a lot of juice. Like like you said, I think the Cowboys are somewhere between a 9, 10, 11 win team. If everything breaks right, their schedule is easy enough where if things break right, they can win 11 games.
Absolutely.
Outrageous. Washington and New York could be horrible. I mean, Joe Shane came out and said that it's the hand we're dealt. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, we're just gonna. I mean, like, it sounds like the Giants are aware they could stink. So, I'm not entirely enthused about taking this under at minus 155. But if I had to make a pick on this, I would take the under.
And the other thing about the Cowboys is that no matter how they've played, they have just dominated
the division.
Right. And so it's just, how do you,
like, if they split with the Eagles, they probably get out of here with a minimum of 4 wins in the division. 4-2. If you split with the Eagles, you probably go 4-2, worst case in the division.
Right. And so, I mean, that's a huge deal because you're talking about a team I think is 13-5 over the past 3 seasons against the division. And 2 of those seasons, last year they went 6-0, and 2019 they went 5-1. So it just feels like that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if they go 4-2 against the division, they also have games at home against the Lions, Bears, and Texans. It's like that feels like they could get to 7 really quickly.
Right.
And
So we
then
both
you're
like
at
the under.
Jacksonville, at Tennessee. You could steal one at home against Indy. I mean, I'm just saying they could get to 11 and it wouldn't be shocking. It's a little too close for me where I wouldn't want to take that minus 155 because if they come out to a hot start, like if they beat the Bengals and the Bucks at home, you're terrified about that under.
Right. So we both
let's move to the Phil. So I mean, no
like
best,
the under, but we don't love it. Not a bad bet.
I mean, I would. If the under was minus 120, I would be all over it. The Philadelphia Eagles over under 9.5. And this is correlated to the Cowboys over under as well. Like you see the Cowboys juice on the under 10.5 has been building instead of it moving. The Eagles juice on the over 9.5 has been building. Over 9.5 minus 140, under 9.5 plus 118. This will be a best bet of mine. I told you I like the Eagles as a possible Super Bowl contender. When I like 5 minutes ago or 10 minutes ago, whatever it was. So over 9.5 for the Eagles is an easy bet for me, Breech. I mean, I look, there are a lot of people out there who don't believe in Jalen Hurts. That's okay.
Me.
Well, that's fine. If you don't want to believe in Jalen Hurts, that's okay. But the reality is to me, it's unfair how Jalen Hurts is being treated relative to other young quarterbacks. It's like, oh, well, Jalen Hurts can't take a leap. It's like, well, why not? Why can't Jalen Hurts be the young second-year quarterback who takes a big leap? Your third-year quarterback, I guess. Right? Yeah. Second-year starter. But second-year's full-time starter who takes a leap, right? I mean, it's assumed that Jalen Hurts it's like, well, he's hit his ceiling because we've seen him so well. He's 24 years old. He'll turn 25 on August 7th. But I mean, this is a young quarterback who is fully capable of taking a step forward as a passer behind a loaded offensive line with A.J. Brown added and Devontae Smith in his second season. Dallas Goddard, full-time role. If you extrapolate his stats after Zach Ertz got traded, he's going to be huge this year. And then that defense looks like maybe one of the best defenses they've had since 2017. Again, they get to play Jacksonville, Houston. Houston's on the road. That's fine. Indy's on the road. They draw Green Bay at home, which is massive. At the Bears is a stealable game. They're at the Lions to start the season. I think you look at their schedule. At Lions, I think they'll win that game, but the Lions could certainly upset them. Vikings at home on Monday Night Football. At Washington, Jacksonville at home, at Arizona, at Dallas. I don't think it's outrageous to suggest that they start worst case 4-2.
Yeah, I mean 6-0 is not out of the question when you look at.
And if they're 5-1, you're cashing this ticket quite early.
The Vikings, the Monday night game is at home. We all know about Kirk Cousins' woes in prime time, especially on Monday night. The Cardinals aren't going to have DeAndre Hopkins back yet, and that Cowboys game is at home. And so it does feel like that 6-0 is not out of the question. But like you said, just if they fell on their face and lost that game to the Lions, I don't think we would be totally surprised.
No,
it's just
if they lose at Detroit in week 1, I'm not changing my mind about this over. Now at that point, maybe, and we've seen Vegas offering alternate over win totals during the season, or like redone win totals during the season. I bet the 49ers last year and cashed that. If they offer an early Eagles, like after week 1, after a Lions loss, they offer like an 8.5, I would take it. Eagles, my over 9.5 is one of my best bets for sure. You can go lock that in. I don't need to wait on that one.
Yeah, I have the Eagles winning the division. I'm not as high on them as you are. I'm not going to have them win the Super Bowl, but I do think they are going to win the division. I just think their schedule, we talked about the front end, but just that it sets up, there's no brutal stretch, where you just see like, oh man, they might lose 4 games in a row. There is a stretch around Thanksgiving where they play the Colts, Packers, and Titans in a row. But
yeah, you're breaking up a little bit. Yes, there is a stretch where they have the Colts, Packers, and Titans and over the Thanksgiving stretch, and then they're at Giants, at Bears, at Cowboys for a 3-game stretch. But like, if you're going to be on the road for 3 straight road games, at Giants, at Bears is a pretty good start because you're not going very far at all, and you're playing teams that you don't think are going to be that great.
Yes.
And then the Cowboys is indoors and nice and sunny. All right. Moving along. The Washington I'm going to start calling them the artists formerly known as WFT.
The Commandos.
No, I'm going to start calling them, quote, the artists formerly known as WFT.
And I'm calling them Commandos.
All right. Oh, Commandos. All right, fine. Commodores. They're over under 7.5 at Caesars / William Hill. The over -125. The under +105. I foolishly took the over on this team's win total last year. I was looking at Jordan Dejani's link from last year. I was like, oh my God, what a dumb. I don't know why that was what I was in. I don't know why I was all in on the Washington football team. They weren't very good. I guess you could be a little bit more bullish on them this year, maybe because they added Carson Wentz. I do think Carson Wentz is an upgrade over Taylor Heineke, as much as we like to joke that he's not on this podcast. I don't know what to make of this team, really, to be honest. I think they're going to lose week 1 to the Jaguars. I know that.
But the thing that scares me about taking an under with them is you mentioned that first game against Jacksonville. The second game is against Detroit. So it is completely within the realm of possibility that they start 2-0 and then they only need
Breech, why don't you jump out and jump back in real quick? But I'll filibuster while you do that. Yeah, I mean, what Breech is trying to say is that you look at the schedule for the Commodores, and it's Jacksonville at home, at Detroit, and then Philly at home. I mean, 3-0 isn't out of the realm of possibility. I mean, that would be bad for the Philly over here, but Detroit's a frisky team. Everyone loves Detroit, hard knocks, high expectations, but it's not that crazy to suggest that that Washington would start 3-0 heading to at Dallas, where maybe the Cowboys get a little beat up in the first 3 weeks of the season. CeeDee Lamb, I'm just saying, like ankle sprain, and all of a sudden Dallas is kind of, the offensive line is a bigger problem. I'm pointing to your point, Breech, that I don't think 3-0 is out of the question for Washington.
And then they only need 5 more wins.
Yeah, and Dallas could be all banged up in week 4. They get Tennessee at home, then they're at Chicago. It's they're Houston at Houston. They get Atlanta at home. They play the Giants twice, obviously. The Browns late in the season, which is unfortunate because Deshaun should be back. It's not an easy path, but there's definitely a path to 8 wins for this team. And I would not want to take the under, but that would be my lean. I would not take the over, but I would not want to. You know what I'm saying? I would lean towards the under, but I would not want to bet it.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Why don't you talk a little bit more about it so we can get your volume up?
Oh my goodness, Brinson. I think that this team could be good. They won the Division 2 years ago.
There you go. That's good. Why don't we move on to the Giants now?
Well, now they have Carson Wentz, and it's just I don't know what Carson Wentz we're getting. If it's Carson Wentz somehow won 9 games with the Colts last year, and so this is an over-under. I also lean under, but I would stay far away from this.
If you're betting the over-under on Washington, you're putting your hands you're putting your fate in the hands of Carson Wentz. And I just don't have any interest in doing that.
Neither do I.
The New York Football Giants, over-under 7. The Giants are, I don't want to question whatever Caesars is doing, but just organize the win totals in some fashion. Am I missing something? How these are organized?
I thought they were alphabetically, but it's
not alphabetical. It's not by conference. It's not by division. It's not by win total. I don't know what it is. Just come on. The Giants over 7 +105. The Giants under 7 -125. What's your initial lean here, Breech?
My initial lean is the under. I feel like the Giants have the worst roster in the NFC East. Unless Brian Dable pulls some sort of miracle with Daniel Jones, I have a hard time seeing the Giants getting to 8 wins. And so maybe you get lucky and get to that push at 7, but I just cannot see the team getting to 8 wins.
So Joe Shane, the Giants GM, met with the media on Thursday, September 1st. And there's a great picture from Ralph Vacchiano of actually I think he's not with the New York. I can't remember where he went somewhere else. Anyway, and it's just Joe Shane is just like this. He's looking very, if you're not watching on YouTube, he's looking very solemn. And the quote is on expectations for the 2022 season. Quote, We're just trying to get through today. The situation we're in is the situation. It's the hand we were dealt. We're going to do the best we can. You can't take the over on a team whose GM is saying that.
You cannot.
Yeah.
And you know what? To his point, literally this whole first year is mop-up duty, and you're cleaning up the mess that the old regime left you.
Yes, correct.
So it's not your fault you're going to stink. It's the old people who were there before. It's Gettleman and all the coaches they went through. So,
and I was reading something from Jordan Raanan of ESPN as well, where it's like basically like Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney are, I mean, like they're just there because they're uncuttable.
Their contracts are insane.
They're uncuttable because they were either drafted in the first round last year like Toney, or they're guaranteed $18 million this year like Kenny Golladay. So like the only reason they're on the roster is because they're just uncuttable. They open at Tennessee, Carolina at home, Dallas at home, Chicago at home. I mean, then they're at Green Bay, Baltimore at home, at Jacksonville, at Seattle. Like that little stretch right there of where they have Carolina and Chicago at home, at Jacksonville, at Seattle. If they don't win those 4 games, this is a stone cold under lock, because most of the division games, 1 against Dallas, 2 against Washington, 2 against Philly, come after the bye. They do get Houston and Detroit at home. Like there's definitely a path where this team goes over 7 wins, but I ain't taking it.
And there's also a path where they go way under.
Yes, there's a path where they go way under and finish with a top overall pick. And I don't think that this regime would be necessarily upset with that. Because if you finish with the first overall pick, you go to the owners in New York, you say, look, we told you this is a big mess. We had to clean it up. Daniel Jones isn't the guy. We now have a plethora of options at the top of the draft to pick from. Let's do that. Okay, let's move along to another division. The Packers, over under 11 wins for the Green Bay Packers. Their over is stinking thing. Caesar's throwing me a bone here. Thank you, Nada. The Green Bay Packers over 11 is minus 105. Their under 11 is minus 115. It feels to me, Breech, like the Packers win total is, and really anything about the Packers is like largely built on Devontae Adams departing.
Right.
There's 2. So I guess I would leave 11's 2. I wish it was 10.5. 10.5. I would love the over. But 11 is a lot of games. They've won 13 games in each of the first 3 seasons, I believe, right?
Yeah, with Matt 4.
So they 39-10. I keep saying 39-9. They were 13-4 last year.
Yes.
So 39-10.
Yes.
They won 13 games every year. Opened up at Minnesota, Chicago at home, at Tampa Bay, New England at home. Play the Giants in London at Hotspur, Tottenham Stadium. The Jets at home. Oh my God! I mean, they might start. I mean, 6-0, 5-1, 4-2. I mean, 4-2 would be a miserable start for them. You lose at Minnesota, at Tampa, I guess. They're at the Bills later. They own the Lions. You get the Cowboys at home, the Titans at home, at the Eagles, at the Bears, Rams at home after a late bye, at Miami, Minnesota, and Detroit at home to close out. This is a different approach they're taking this year. They want to really run the football and play great defense. But I still think the passing game will be perfectly fine with Aaron Rodgers. They have enough weapons where he's not going to fall off. Like we've had plenty of motivation for Aaron Rodgers the last 2 years in the form of Jordan Love. Now the motivation is people questioning Aaron Rodgers without Devontae Adams. I think he's going to have a big year. I think he'll be fine. I'm not worried about Aaron Rodgers. I don't think I would take the over 11 because that's just a lot of wins, but I would not take the under. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think I would lean over here. This is like if you played someone in tennis and they beat you left-handed, and after the match, you find out they're actually right-handed, so they could have beat you even worse. And that's what it feels like with the Packers. We're like, you know what? We're going to run the ball, even though we have two-time reigning MVP back here who can throw the ball all over you. And that's the advantage that the Packers have, is because Aaron Rodgers is going to have time to get comfortable with his receivers in these games because he doesn't have to throw it 50 times a game for this team to be good. Their defense is good. They can run the ball. And so he'll have a warming period, an acclimation period with his receivers. And Yeah, I mean, the over is just so high. It's not something I love, but I do think they're going to hit the over. And by the way, we've agreed on every one so far.
There you go. Minnesota Vikings. Well, it's just one division. A lot of times, if you feel a certain way about it, certain way about two teams in the division, it goes lockstep with the other ones. Minnesota Vikings over under 9 wins. Sort of annoying that they're not moving this to like 9. I mean, a lot of push opportunities here, but whatever. Over 9 minus 135, under 9 plus 115. I would have a very strong lean, I believe, towards the over here. I'm very bullish on the Vikings offense with new head coach Kevin O'Connell. We saw with Mike Zimmer running things that this offense could be explosive, but it was almost accident or almost only explosive when it needed to be instead of being aggressively explosive and then allowing, Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison and some of the younger backs they've got now to close out the game by running the ball. And so I think that Kevin O'Connell will sort of reverse engineer what Mike Zimmer did. And if they do that, there's no reason this team shouldn't score plenty of points. The question becomes, can the defense be as good as it was when Zimmer had things rolling? I would guess no, only because I think that Zimmer is a really good defensive coach, but there's enough talent here where this team can be a average to above average defensive team.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, this team went 8-9 last season, and 8 of those 9 losses were by 1 score. So, I mean, we're talking about week 1. They lost in overtime against the Bengals. They're driving down. Dalvin Cook fumbles. He never fumbles. Bengals kick a game-winning field goal. Boom, game over. Week 2, Greg Joseph misses like a 36-yard field goal. Boom, the Vikings are 0-2, could easily be 2-0. And when you keep losing close games, that kind of falls on coaching. You can only pin in close games. They're usually a toss-up. So if you played 8 one-score games, you probably should have gone 4-4. And if they win those 2 games, they go 10-7 last year. And so I think the Vikings are a lot better. This might end up being one of my best bets as we go through these. I'm really, really high on the Vikings this year. But I don't think they're better than the Packers. But I could see them winning 10 or 11 games. Dalvin Cook, everyone. Jalen Reagor. They got Jalen.
That's right. That's right. The Vikings did actually trade. We mentioned that during Tuesday's podcast when we were talking about the cut deadline. The Vikings actually did trade for Jalen Reagor, and the Seahawks did end up re-signing J-Jaw to their practice squad, forcing both guys to sit next to the guy who was drafted after them that is substantially, like a billion times better.
Which is hilarious.
Yeah, it's quite funny. I open up with the Packers at home. Obviously they can win that game. It's a close line. I think Green Bay gets it, but with a lot of it, it'll be hard to say with a lot of adjustments being made. Then they're at the Eagles, Lions at home, at the Saints, Bears at home, at the Dolphins. Sort of an up and down, crazy schedule. They had the Jets and the Giants at home and the Colts at the Lions on the back end. They have a lot of winnable games in that back end of that thing. I would take the over here. I'm gonna put them in as a best bet for right now.
What?
Vikings over 9 minus 1. I reserve the right to take that out. We'll list our full best bets at the end. But that's on my list that I'm putting out there. All right, the Detroit Lions over under 6.5. The over, I believe, is minus 155. Yeah, that's a big number. The Lions are like the offseason darling. Oh, minus 140 now. It's way down. So over 6.5, minus 140, under 6.5, plus 118. The Fighting Dan Campbell's getting a lot of love because of just sort of the way they've approached the offseason. They're on Hard Knocks. They fought so hard. They're very lovable. For once in a long time, the Lions are very lovable. Are you loving them?
I love Hard Knocks and I love Dan Campbell. I even love Jared Goff, but I do not love the Lions. I love the parts, but I don't love the whole. I'm not buying the Hard Knocks hype. I always get sucked into the Hard Knocks teams, Brinson. It happens every single year. I'm not letting it happen this year. I'm going to take the under here. I think the Lions get to probably 6 wins. I have them going 6-11, so that's a nudge under. I definitely wouldn't make this a best bet because I could see them getting to 7 or 8. But, you just look at this schedule, especially the back half after the bye, where they have to play the Cowboys, the Dolphins, the Packers, the Bills, Packers twice after the bye. And so, Yeah, they could easily win, surprise some people, especially because, they have the Commanders, they have the Seahawks the first few weeks of the season. They could pick up a few wins, but yeah, I just think 6 wins is how I'm feeling about them right now. So right at the over-under. So I'm leaning under here.
I mean, everybody can talk about their tough losses last year. They went 3-13-1. The Pythag, their expected win total based on their points for, points against, 5.1. So it's like, I mean, they definitely underachieved, but not like so drastically that you would definitely have to take the over here. This is a pass for me. I would think I would take the under at 6.5. I think it's probably a market inflation, but I don't want to bet against the Lions because I do kind of like them. A team I will definitely bet against, the Chicago Bears. They have one of the easiest schedules in football this year, but it doesn't matter when you have one of the worst rosters in football. And that's what the Bears have. Their over-under has dropped down to 6. It was 6.5, which was an absolute slam dunk. It is now 6 minus 115 to the under, minus 105 to the over. Look, you look at this roster, and there's just not much there. I mean, Justin Fields is probably a blue chip prospect. I mean, like you could build around him, but I don't know if this current regime wants to. His receiving core is Darnell Mooney, Equinemius St. Brown, Byron Pringle, Velus Jones Jr., Dante Pettis, and then he has Cole Kmet, Ryan Griffin, and Trevon Wesco at tight end. So I don't see how this offense does much of anything. Maybe Luke Getsy's a mastermind, and he certainly has the chops, to suggest that he could be a good offensive coordinator. But we haven't seen it yet. There's like nobody on defense. I mean, they have Roquan Smith, who's a stud. Robert Quinn is played really well last year, but is extremely old. And Jalen Johnson is a stud. Eddie Jackson's had some good runs. They've got some decent second-round players that they picked up this past year, but they lost Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack. Their run defense is going to be horrendous. No offense to my boy Justin Jones. Give me the under as a stone cold lock.
Yeah, I agree with you. You just literally said everything. I don't know how anyone could take the over here, even if you like the Bears, even if you're a Bears fan, even if you're Tom Fornelli or Joe Musso or one of the dozens and dozens of Bears fans that we work with because they have infiltrated this company. I don't see how you could be optimistic enough to take the over.
Yep, under is on my best bets list right now. What else is on my best bets list? We will tell you next coming up, or we'll tell you after the break. Next.
The UEFA Champions League. 9 months of heart-stopping, hold-your-breath acceleration. While Mbappe shines in the city of lights, Benzema's racking up the hat tricks, and the Reds want more magic in Liverpool. This ain't amateur hour. This is the best of the best of the best. This is the UEFA Champions League. Stream every match live on Paramount Plus.
The NFC South looked... Oh, and as Breech points out in Slack, the Bears are skeptical that David Montgomery fits their new offense. Great.
And that's from Dan Graziano from ESPN. And that's another thing. Like that's one of your star offensive players. And if you don't have receivers to throw to, you have to run the ball. And if you're skeptical that your top running back doesn't fit your offense, that's a huge problem.
I feel like there's a decent chance that Ryan Poles, I hate the fact that they have Ryan and Matt as their new head coach or GM and head coach. Because there's the old ones. It's just confusing. I think there's a decent chance that Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus want to blow this whole thing up. And have no problem with Justin Fields being terrible this year and them drafting a quarterback at the top.
They're going to quietly tank.
Don't
talk about it.
I don't know if it's quietly. I think it's just like, hey, we suck. Don't worry about it. The Buccaneers lead the way in the AFC or the NFC South, excuse me. Their over-under is 11.5. The under heavily juiced, minus 140. My goodness. The over plus 118. I don't think that I'm going to mess with. Oh, Jesus. Adam Schefter tweeting about the Ravens mascot suffered a season-ending knee injury. Come on, man.
He tore his ACL.
I don't need to blow to Baltimore season. I don't need
the injury bug's already biting Brinson. We saw it last preseason. Little Poe going down. Prayers up, Poe. Prayers up the Poe.
Prayers up the Poe. I'm not taking the under on a Tom Brady team in a fairly weak division, but 11.5 is so high. It feels like the books would much rather move this down to 11, but don't want to offer up the possibility. So, I mean, like this is the new normal for sports books, by the way. They're not going to move the number. They do this with the draft too. They're just going to move the juice. So like they don't want you betting on the under of the Bucks. They're just going to move the juice to where it's like, it's not like very bettable.
I don't know how I feel about the Buccaneers. I hate betting against Tom Brady is really what it comes down to. And you look at what he's done in his 2 seasons there, and obviously, I don't know, he won a Super Bowl and then finished with tied for the best record in 2021. So they were actually 2 games better last year than they were in 2020, the year they won the Super Bowl. And so, you hate taking the under, but that's where I am right now. There's just too many issues.
0-4.
The offensive line is a mess. He lost his favorite guy in Gronk.
Godwin's not 100% for week 1.
Godwin's coming off ACL. Mike Evans missed multiple weeks of training camp with an injury. It's just like, they're not in total disarray. And Tom Brady's
new head coach who's done it before, but like Todd Bowles is not exactly like Bruce Arians. I don't think Todd Bowles is going to. I guess Todd Bowles won't have total. He might not even have final say on like what offense they're going to run, but it's just not going to be as like wide open as Bruce Arians was. I would be shocked at that.
And like you just said, those opening 4 games, Cowboys, Saints, Packers, Chiefs, it is not out of the realm of possibility that they start 0-4. And if that happens, Tom Brady already seems like halfway checked out.
I talked about that.
We saw that press conference. He's never like that. He's always jovial and happier. At least has a smile on his face. He looked dejected. And so if they start 0-4, is he just going to be like, all right, you know what? I'm retired. You guys do whatever you want. I'll be back in March when I'm a free agent or he'll play 6. I don't know, but it's just they have
let's say even you get through that 2-2, which is totally possible. But man, Packers and Chiefs at home, and that at Cowboys at Saints. Let's say hypothetically they start 0-4. They beat the Falcons at home. They beat the Steelers and Panthers on the road. They're now 3-4. But then they lose at home to the Ravens and the Rams before beating the Seahawks in Germany. That's not an unreasonable way to start before the bye, right?
No, that's not.
So you'd be 4-6 going into the bye, and maybe that over under is dead. You would have to win. It's dead.
Yeah,
I think the under would be the play here, but I don't really want to take it because it's not outrageous that they beat the Cowboys, beat the Saints, and then hold serve at home, and they're 4-0. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. You go 2-2 in the first 4. That's kind of the key to making this over hit. And then, you get the Browns out of the bye. They won't have Deshaun Watson back yet. But then you get that brutal Saints, 49ers, Bengals, Cardinals. Yeah, like you said, if you're 4-6, then the over is tanked. Yeah, I like the under here.
I would probably lean under, but again, like they could start 5-0 and you're toast on that under because they're winning 12 or 13 games. Also, I'm not going to make this a bet because I have a bunch of Bucks futures to win the division, which is now concerning because of that schedule, because of all these injuries, and because suddenly the New Orleans Saints look like an interesting team at a win total of 8.5 over -130, under +110. The Saints, of course, added a lot this offseason, except they lost Sean Payton. Wait, who's the how am I somehow missing the player they drafted in the
talk, Brinson? What are your words? Use your words.
Who's the didn't they draft? Where's the offensive lineman they drafted in the first round? Who was it?
This year? Travis Benning. He's out. He's got an injury.
On IR already?
Yeah.
Okay, I missed the IR designation there. Sorry. I was looking on the depth chart. I was like, we're missing somebody. They have Chris Olave as well. Michael Thomas back. Marcus Callaway there. Tre'Quan Smith. Jarvis Landry added. Alvin Kamara doesn't look like he's going to be suspended. They added Mark Ingram. Man, the offense, if Jameis Winston, if Pete Carmichael can do what be, 70% of, let's say 80% of Sean Payton in terms of play calling, which I guess is not out of control, then this is a very interesting offense. The offensive line looks like it could be more than competent. And defensively, they do have plenty of pieces. They added, what's really interesting about this team, Breech? They added, I don't know if you heard of this guy.
Tyrann Mathieu.
The Honey Badger this offseason, but they also added Jarvis Landry. Like those are two of the biggest LSU guys in recent memories. And they're going to be juiced up to play in the Saints uniforms every single week.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I said this on a podcast, I think last week. Andy Dalton, of all people in the world, said this is one of the best teams he's played for, and because he played for the Bengals.
Well,
but he played
for the
played on a Bengals team. I know I already beat myself to the joke. I already laughed. I did the ha ha ha. So you didn't have to do the sound bite. But Andy Dalton literally played for 5 teams. Played for a team that went to the playoffs 5 years in a row. So he does know what a good football team looks like. Andy Dalton doesn't seem like a guy who goes around just spouting hyperbole. So I think that hearing Andy Dalton say that is very interesting. I think this team is stacked, and it really comes down to, it's kind of like the Eagles, where it just depends how you feel about their quarterback situation. I think the Saints over hits, but I don't know how much I trust it. Just because, Jameis is coming off a torn ACL. Maybe if Andy Dalton goes in there, I'll pound the over. But yeah, I like the over. I'm leaning over.
I think the over is a play here. Unless, I was sort of down on it before, but unless Jameis is just I'm talking myself out of the Bucs. It's so easy to talk yourself out of the Bucs and into like the Saints and the Panthers. I think the over is definitely a play here. But I'm gonna put it on the short list mainly because it's like you look at this roster and it's just a lot better roster than you sort of thought about because of some of the attrition they had. I just think the vibes that, man,
Tyrann Mathieu
being back in New Orleans, Jarvis Landry there, this team's going to come out amped up every single week. And if Olave's great, Michael Thomas is finally back and like in a good headspace, the offense, oh man, I know Kamara suspension. This team is interesting. I'm going to put it on the short list. Carolina Panthers over under 6.5. Panthers have dramatically shifted in terms of how people look at them over the last few weeks, months, whatever it is, since Baker Mayfield got there. And understandable. The over-under has sort of settled in at 6.5, minus 110 on both sides. I think you like the Panthers over. We had a weird talk about that during the course of
Brinson. I don't like it. I love it.
I'm not going to love it because I think there's a couple. Like it would take one or two things going wrong for this to just a drastically.
Okay, let me ask you this: they play the Browns week 1. We know that Baker Mayfield wants to beat the Browns by 75 points. Okay, they play the Giants in week 2.
Win.
Then they have 3 straight home games. Saints.
Could be a win.
They split with the Saints last year when they were terrible. Cardinals.
They blew out the Saints in Charlotte last year.
In week 2. Cardinals without DeAndre Hopkins. Yep. It's winnable, right?
Yeah, for sure. They can start 4-0 easily.
And then the 49ers, where if Trey Lance is struggling to start the season, they could come in just in total disarray.
I think the 49ers game and then the Rams game are not. So let's say they start 3-1. I think that's reasonable, right?
Okay.
You start 3-1. You lose the 49ers, lose at the Rams, lose at the Buccaneers. So you're 3-4. I will give them a sweep over the Bengals. A sweep over the Falcons and a loss to the Bengals. So you're 3-4.
Now you're 5-5.
5-5.
And you just
need Ravens loss, Broncos loss.
But at 5-5, you only need 2 more wins the rest of the season.
I know. And you get the Steelers and the Lions at home and
you have the Seahawks. You still have the Seahawks.
Yeah. I know. I can't.
I don't want to
go like
you're going under. I'm putting you down for the under. I can't.
I'm just not taking anything. If without Baker, the under was a slam dunk. With
Baker,
which
way would you lean? I gotta have you down for something.
I would lean a little over, but I don't want to.
I just think their offensive line is totally rebuilt. Bradley Bozeman got injured, but now he's supposed to be available for week 1. He's probably the best center in that division now. And then Austin Corbett, they just signed at guard. Like they revamped the offensive line.
It's the best offensive line they had in a while. Everybody's kind of banking on. They got to have McCaffrey for the full season.
And Ike Ekwonu, let's not forget. So you're talking about 3 new starters in the offensive line. And yes, Christian McCaffrey, if he stays healthy, Baker can just dump the ball off to him while he's trying to get comfortable throwing to the other guys downfield.
They got some weapons with Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. No doubt about it. Falcons over under 5.
We have 5 seconds to talk about it. I'm just kidding.
You cannot take the Falcons over. You just can't. Sorry, I should have given you more time.
You know what? The crazy thing about the Falcons is that, like, I would love to see Marcus Mariota have a huge year. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't even think it has a chance of happening. But I would love if the Falcons came out and surprised people, just because everyone does think they're going to be terrible. But, you get Mariota with Arthur Smith, who was with him in Tennessee, so he's familiar with his skill set. And I think that there's at least a possibility that they could surprise people, maybe win 5 or 6 games. But like you just said, you can't put actual money on the over.
By the way, this Nick Underhill just tweeted that the Saints safety Marcus May was arrested this morning for aggravated assault with a firearm, per a source.
Well, that's not good.
That doesn't help matters. That could be a 6-game suspension pretty quickly. Falcons over under 5, under minus 145, over plus 122. I mean, look, we've talked about the Falcons on here before. By the way, Pick Six Podcast loves the Falcons. They did our rattlesnakes landmine thing that I came up with, not Ryan Wilson.
I remember when you came up with that. I can't believe Wilson tries to take credit for it.
It's just pathetic that he tries to steal it from me. There's some pieces on the offensive line, but Jake Matthews is a 2014 pick. Lindstrom McGarry didn't pan out. Kyle Pitts is a monster. Drake London could be great. I hope Marcus Mariota has a renaissance under Arthur Smith. But it's just, there ain't much on defense here. And I think they end up playing Desmond Ridder plenty to see what they have. AJ Terrell's great. Grady Jarrett's fantastic, but he's definitely old. I mean, obviously older. I don't see a path to over here.
I agree with that.
I'm gonna put in Falcons under 5. Minus 140 is a possibility. Let's move to the NFC West.
Brinson, this is just getting too, I don't think we've disagreed on anything yet, and we are 12 teams in. We need to have some big disagreements here.
That's probably not going to happen. Rams over under 10.5. Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. Of course, they lost Von Miller, and maybe more importantly, just blanking, the left tackle who played at Cincinnati.
Andrew Whitworth.
Andrew Whitworth. Thank you. Of
course, you would blank on a former Bengals player.
Of course, they added Allen Robinson this offseason. They still have a loaded team,
which is one of the sneaky best signings of the offseason. Getting Allen Robinson when you already have Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, and he's like such a great compliment to Cooper Kupp too. And they could even get Odell Beckham back as well. We'll see how that plays out. They open up with the Bills at home, the Falcons at home, at Cardinals, at Niners, Cowboys at home, Panthers at home. I feel like bare minimum. That is, I think they win. Even if they lose to the Bills, which I don't think they're going to do. They're going to win 4 of those 4-2 worst case scenario going into the bye. San Francisco at home, at Tampa, Arizona at home, at New Orleans, at KC. Sheesh. Seattle, Vegas, and at home, and then at Green Bay, Denver at home, at the Chargers, and at Seattle.
And one thing about their schedule is that from the start of the season in September, they only leave the state of California one time in the month of September and October combined. So there's little to no travel, which is rare for a West Coast team. They're in a division where 2 teams are changing quarterbacks with the 49ers and Seahawks. The Cardinals are going to have their best offensive player for 6 weeks. And it just feels like the Rams are the best team in the division. And, you look at what they did last year, and it just feels like they should be able to do that again this year. And they got to what they do? 12-5 last year. I feel like they can do 12-5 again.
I would lean towards the over for the Rams.
Okay, we didn't disagree. That's not good.
Well, I mean, I just think the Cardinals. I don't think the Cardinals are going to start as hot as they did last year. I think the Seahawks are not going to be very good, and they have a hard schedule, but this is a really good football team. I don't buy into the Matthew Stafford major injury concerns. I do buy into he has elbow soreness. That dude will play through anything. So I will take the over here, but I would not be one of my best bets just because it's a bigger number. But I would rather take the over on the Rams 10.5 than the over Packers 11, I think. Because 11 is a win versus 11 is a push is a huge, huge difference.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's why I feel a lot better about the Rams than it seems like the Rams are almost a lock to get to 11 as long as Matthew Stafford stays healthy. But that elbow's the big question because that starts hurting him, week 3, and all of a sudden he can't throw 40 yards downfield, like somebody on this podcast, me, then that could change up their offense. That they could struggle.
The 49ers, San Francisco 49ers over under 10, minus 110 on each side. So I feel like a pretty similar team. It's basically, do you believe in Trey? Like, what concerns you more, Matthew Stafford's elbow or Trey Lance's ability to play? I mean, I believe in Trey Lance. I believe in Kyle Shanahan. I believe in this defense. I believe in the offensive weapons they have. I think this over is a very good bet at 10. I don't think this is a 9-win team.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. When I went through my standings, I have them finishing 10-7. This is the only team that finished on the mark of what the over/under was. So I'm not sure which way I lean here. I don't know what I think about Trey Lance. I'm just not sold on him, but Kyle Shanahan clearly is. Or is he not? Because
I think the fact that they have Jimmy as kind of a fail-safe makes me feel a lot better about the over here. And if they have to go to Jimmy, yes, it's a problem for the regime that the Trey Lance thing isn't working out, but it's not a problem for your over/under if they have to go to him, because you have a chance to catch it. They start at Chicago, Seattle at home, at Denver, LA at home, the Rams at home, at Carolina, at the Falcons. Like, should be 4 wins right there. I think they split with the Rams. They play the Chiefs at home. So let's say they lose at Denver, split with the Rams, and lose to the Chiefs. You're still 1, 2.
Well, real quick
3,
with the Chiefs
4,
game, that Chiefs game is in, I think, week 7.
Yeah.
And so that starts a stretch of Chiefs, Rams, Chargers, where those are 3 straight games, which all could very well be losses.
Yeah, but also could all very well be wins.
No, they're not winning all 3 of those.
I mean, yeah, but they could go 2-1 of those. That's not insane.
Yeah, they might get 2-1.
Oh man, they just got. I like
there's a path.
I like the over. I like the 49ers over.
DeAndre Hopkins will be back for both games, which stinks for the 49ers that they did not get either of their games against the Cardinals in the first 6 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I just think that half a game matters a ton to me. Because I mean, like, you go 10-7 and you push. You go 10-7 with the Rams and you lose your entire bet. Like it's just such a massive difference. So I'll take the over on the 49ers there.
You know what, Brinson? Just so we're different, at least one team, I will take the under.
Over under Arizona Cardinals 9. The under is minus 140. The over plus 118. Clearly, there's a belief that the Cardinals are prepared to take a step back. I believe they started 8-0 or 8-1 last year. So what say you, Breech? Arizona Cardinals over under.
Odds makers are daring us to take the under, and I'm going to take the dare. I'm going to
take the over.
Well, I'm not taking the over. That's all I can say.
No, they're daring you. They're begging you not to take the under. They're like,
I have no
9-win team.
I have no faith in this team. It is, you look at their schedule, they start off with Chiefs, Raiders, and Rams. They could start off 0-3.
Remember, this team is Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray notoriously come out hot and then fade down the stretch. But now they don't have DeAndre Hopkins to start, and their schedule is outside of at Carolina in week 4, and then Seattle in week 6. So like their schedule is very difficult to start.
Yeah. And then you look at the fact that, you mentioned how hot they come out every year. Is literally like the NFL schedule makers like, we're going to pour some ice cold water on your hot starts, because that's why we're going to give you these 3 very difficult games to start the year. And if they start 1-2 or 0-3, this was a team. Sure, Kyler Murray got a huge contract, but there was a lot of drama. And if Kyler Murray doesn't look great those first 3 games, I think this team implodes, because it's one of those situations where he already wasn't getting along with them. And then the Cardinals are already regretting giving him $230 million, and they're asking for a refund on the contract. And I just think this is a situation that could blow up pretty quickly.
I agree completely. And it's the back half of their schedule after their bye. Pats at home, at Denver, Bucks at home, at Atlanta, at San Francisco. Oof. Like that reeks of a Cliff Kingsbury collapse. And then going into the bye, the 3 games are at the Rams, 49ers at home, Chargers at home.
49ers in
really
Mexico.
hard schedule. I think the under is a good. I mean, I think I prefer the under here versus the over. Like, I think this might be the best NFC West bet.
49ers game is in Mexico, not at home.
Good call. Thank you.
Just to be clear.
In Estadio Azteca.
So are we both going under?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, then I feel like this might be.
I hope we disagree on every AFC team tomorrow.
I mean, I just feel like what are you worried about?
No, just Brinson, if we agree on everything, it's all going to blow up in our face. That means that the NFL's duped us.
Stu in the chat points out Kingsbury gets canned this year. I don't know. I mean, I don't see how. He just got a contract extension. Kyler got a contract extension. Like, I don't see how you blow it up after. Man, what a weird setup.
I don't see how you can give him an extension in March and then say right. And the Cardinals are kind of like the Bengals in that they don't want to be paying.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very frugal.
They're not firing Kingsbury.
Not this year. Maybe next year.
Yeah, I mean that contract could look.
And he signed through 2027, so it's not like it's not like he signed a short extension.
Yeah. All right. Finally, in the NFC, the Seattle Seahawks over under 6. The under minus 155. The over 6. The over 6 plus 135. No faith. No business. Ryan Wilson likes to say, taking the under or the over here for Vegas. Of course, the Seahawks traded Russell Wilson this offseason. It appears as if they're trying to be the 2010, 2011 Seahawks, where they try to steal their way to 7, 8, 9 wins. Denver to open at home, the Russell Wilson revenge game. Then they're at the 49ers. Atlanta at home, at Detroit, at New Orleans, Arizona at home to start, at the Chargers, the Giants at home. It's like, if they're going to get to 7 wins or 8, or if they're going to get above 6 wins, you have to beat Atlanta. Yeah, so the games you have to win if you are the Seahawks, I think. You have the Atlanta at home, Arizona at home, the Giants at home, Raiders at home, Panthers at home, and Jets at home. Does that seem fair?
Yeah, no, about the Raiders. I think for the Jets, yes, the Falcons, Lions, and Giants. Like, in your head, you have to think we can beat those 4 teams, and then we need to eke out 3 more wins somewhere.
Yeah.
And you know what's interesting? I mean, that opener is everyone's going to be picking Denver.
I like the Seahawks to do something weird in that.
And that would, like when we saw Jared Goff, the Lions go back into LA and the Rams were just a huge favorite. And it was like, the Lions have no chance. And they threw the kitchen sink at them and took the lead early in that game and kept it close.
There's nothing that Pete Carroll would love more than taking out Russell Wilson in his first game as this is like Seattle Super Bowl week 1.
Exactly.
The line's like 3.5. It's really stinky.
And it's one of those things where if the Seahawks were to pull the upset, that kind of changes the narrative of then it's next week. Well, if they beat the Broncos, could they beat the 49ers? And if they beat the 49ers, they have the Falcons and Lions coming up. And then
you can just keep it close against the Niners on the road. If they beat the Broncos and 49ers to start the season, it's like, whoa, this is just maybe a playoff team.
Right, exactly. So, and they weren't horrible when Geno Smith was quarterback last season while Russell Wilson was out. I mean, they played, I think he went 1-2. But they were all
I think they are going to drag every team they play into the mud. And just slow possessions, run the ball a ton. Maybe take some shots down the field when you get the opportunity. Don't turn the ball over, and then force every team they play to be hyper efficient on offense. And if the defense is a lot better than anybody's expecting, all of a sudden there's just a formula there where you can have a bunch of close games, and if a couple of them go your way, all of a sudden you win 8 games, and people are giving like if Pete Carroll wins 9 or 10 games, he's coach of the year.
Yeah, and that formula you're talking about, we got a taste of it when Geno was playing last year. I mean, we're talking about they played the Steelers. Geno Smith is the starter. I'm looking at the Steelers were 5-point favorites. Seahawks ended up losing in overtime, 23-20. Then the next week was a primetime game against the Saints, where the Saints, again, I think were 4.5 or 5-point favorites. And they did exactly what you said. Don't turn the ball over. Low scoring slugfest. And they ended up losing 13-10. But again, those are 2 3-point losses that they very easily could have won in games they were supposed to lose. And so I think, like you were saying, that's a 2011 recipe. And that is probably what we're going to see a lot of from the Seahawks this year.
Yep.
But we're both going under.
I'm going over.
Ooh.
There we go, Breech. We'll close out.
All
with
right.
It's not going to be a best bet, but that's going to be it's not going to be a best bet, but I will take the over on that one. All right. So what are your? I have my list. Do you want me to go first, or do you want?
Let's go with. I have 3 overs and 2 unders, so I did 5.
Okay.
How many did you do?
I've got either 3 unders and 2 overs, or I'm trying to decide on the last one. You go first then.
All right. I'm going to do my overs, and you do your overs.
Okay.
And we might have some of the same ones.
These are our
Eagle.
best bets. This is recapping our 5, we each have 5, right?
Yes.
Our 5 best bets. We're going to start with our 3 over best bets for the NFC win totals, regular season win totals this year.
And this is going to be quick because we already talked about each one of these teams. Eagles over under is 9.5. I love the over. That's the best bet.
I'm on that over as well. So consensus, 5-star Breech, Brinson lock.
Ooh, the diamond lock of the week. All right, my
century of the season.
I also like the Minnesota Vikings.
Oh no, double diamond lock of the week.
No, you have them too.
Yeah, that's another over. Yeah.
And then I know you don't have this one because you were so hesitant, but the other over I love is the Carolina Panthers.
All right, so the other one I was flopping between was the Cardinals under or the 49ers over. I think I'm going to take the 49ers over instead. So I've got the Eagles, Vikings, and Niners overs as my 3 overs. And then you have the Eagles, Vikings, and Panthers overs. What are your, if you're watching on YouTube or you're listening, you want to tweet us, send us your best, list your 3 to 5 best bets for the NFC. What are your 2 unders that you've got, Breech?
My 2 unders are one you just mentioned, the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals are winning 7 games. So I think they're going way under that 9. So that's one of my unders. And the other one we talked about, I said I hate betting against Tom Brady, but I'm going to do it. I'm taking the Buccaneers under 11.5.
It's interesting too, because when you have 5 of them, you inherently have to correlate them. You have to correlate at least one. Only what you have 2 that are correlated. The 9, no. You have the
Buccaneers and Panthers.
Buccaneers and Panthers are correlated, which is not a like if the Panthers beat the Bucs once, that is a massive boost to your.
And I think the Buccaneers are a playoff team. I think they're going to win 10 or 11 games. I just don't think they're going to win 12.
Right. My 2 unders are the lowest unders, I believe, on the board. The Bears under 6 and the Falcons under 5. You can get to 5 wins. Like NFL teams can stumble into 5 or 6 wins sometimes, just randomly, just the way that football works. It's an oblong shape, leather ball inflated with a bunch of air, and it takes funny bounces. But those 2 rosters to me just do not look like competitive teams. So I will take the under on those. The honorable mention for me, Cardinals under 9 and Saints over 8.5. All right.
I like
that's it. Great stuff, Breech. Those are our NFC best bets. We'll be back tomorrow or Monday, depending on when you're listening or watching, with the AFC best bet win totals. For Breech, I'm Brinson. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys.